Can you see or hear me? All right, so we've got one thing under control. Not seeing. Properties, integrated camera, configure video, maybe. Deactivate, activate. Oh, are you seeing me now? Hopefully. I think we've got things going. Let's lock that. So I can see myself. I don't know, Jack or anyone else in here, if you can see me or not. Oh, perfect. All right, well, sorry about that. That was my OBS kicked out my YouTube, and I had to learn how to relink that on the fly. But Foraglings has launched, so let's go over to the project page and see where we're at. Awesome. We hit the launch button. We can probably go in and see who the first backer is. Gotta check some boxes. And congratulations to Matthew and Alyssa for the first pledge. Jack, you are number 2. But we are good to go. So welcome anyone who's watching live. I'm going to be here for the first hour or so of the campaign to see where we get to with the launch and show off some of the Foraglings content. So if you have any questions or curiosities, feel free to mention those in chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue to ramble. But yeah, so we have Foraglings, which is our box up here, is going to be our second project we launch. I'm going to have to hide the campaign page because I just don't want to watch just the number slowly tick up. But this is the second title that TJ has illustrated for us, and it's my second design, and it is a 1 to 4 player polyomino puzzle style game. And so all players are going to get their own unique player board here that has its own collection card, is what we're calling it. And so the game will come with 8 different ones that all vary in complexities, from a simple straightforward 1 level to slightly more going on to it with a 2, or if you're feeling really ambitious, there's some that are level 3 difficulties that you'll slide in those mats. And then that creates your playmat for where you're going to be collecting and storing these resource tiles, and hopefully building a hand of community projects that all have unique ways of scoring at the end of the game. And so I'm very happy with how the design came out. I'm excited for you guys to all jump into it and explore it. So I don't know if it's worth me doing a recap of how the game plays, because there's a few of those that will be on the channel. And if you can't pick up by the trembles in my voice, I'm a little anxious being on camera. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about, what's going on with the game, what's going on behind me, any personal questions. I'll try my best to answer them as honestly as possible. But yeah, we are, 1/12. Yeah, 1/12 of the way there. Oh, a little more than one. We're almost 10% of the way funded in the first 8 to 10 minutes. So, do we have any guesses on if we are going to fund before I sign off? Yeah, so let's look over the campaign page. See, oh, we already got 2 comments. Nice. We got 2 people wishing us good luck. That's awesome. Jack, I know you're live. You got any questions to help fill the time? I've known you as a mechanics first guy. How did you come up with the theme? That is a good question that I probably could have prepped for. So the original idea of the mechanics sparked from actually watching Storage Wars. I I know a lot of it's staged, but I really like the general concept of watching people bid on potential where there's not exact information of like what you're actually bidding on. And so that is what sparked the double card bounty piles that get created. And so once I had that mechanism, it was then trying to figure out how to marry a theme that fit with it. And we went through a couple like different design routes of whether it could be kind of this marketplace and there were customers that were coming up, but the multi-use features of the projects didn't necessarily blend in that way. And so I've always been a fan of TJ's character illustration skills. And so knowing that I was going to be able to sign him for this second title, I really wanted to try and find a theme that would have his art style shine. And that's where we ended up landing on kind of this woodland critter area because, yeah, it kind of matched the overall mechanics nicely, and it allowed TJ to kind of flex his character drawing skills, which I'm loving how it turned out. How's it going, Joe? Good to see you in the chat. I don't know how to position everything, but yeah, it looks like we got Joe and Jack, 2 of my favorite Gamecasters community members in the stream. All right, pop that in there, so that should be good. Let's refresh to see where we're at. Looks like we are at 27 backers. That's pretty cool. So we sent that out. When I jump off the stream, I'll probably send out a message to all previous Everstone backers. But yeah, excited. Yeah, I'm excited too. Anxiously hoping that we fund quickly enough so I don't stress the rest of the week. But I'm happy to finally be showing it to the world. Oh, we got Michaela in chat. It's okay. I can bother Jack and Joe to occupy me with questions. Joe, do you have any questions or thoughts from getting to photograph and play with the prototype before sending it on to Jenna? And Jack, you got any other good questions to stump me? What else can we pull up? We'll do. We're comfortably sitting at 28 backers right now in 12 minutes. I think it's pretty good for project number 2 with a tiny marketing budget. But we're excited to see it continue to steadily creep up. Looks like we've had what Okay, so we got 4 people that got Pledge Manager access, 2 that have backed just the Essential, 14 have gone with the Deluxe, and 6 have gone with the All In. That's pretty cool. What else can I see? No comment on that, Mick. You do what you think is best. All right, let's check out the Board Game Geek page and see if we got anything going on there. You just woke up. Are you? What time zone are you in, Joe? I've never actually asked that. Hopefully, time zones aren't doxing. Maybe tomorrow. You can quit tomorrow, Mick. That's a great question, Jack. How much farther do you think you can push multi-use cards? I'd say I'm at like the sweet spot that I'm happy with, but from like a kind of a thought process question, I'm sure you probably could add 3 or 4 more uses to them. Because I guess both in Foraglings and Everstone, we utilize the back of the card that dictates part of gameplay. And then I guess there's only really 3 uses on the front side for these, which is, I guess, similar to Everstone. Everstone has the ability to use them as a discard small bonus. You can sell them as a one-off, or you can gain them as part of your engine. Whereas this one, you can use them in the market for a point conversion based on whatever the top side here shows. Like if I turn in a bunch of tiles that have the matching berry on it while it's in the market, I can use that to gain coins. I can discard it from my hand for the one-time bonus, and then I can also use it to hold on to at the end of the game for its bottom scoring ability. So I guess both cards also have a cost to them. So this one is only a resource cost to get, where Everstone's cards have a repair cost. So I guess the 4 use features to multi-use cards feels like the sweet spot for me, but I'm sure you could probably blend a 5th one in there. I just wouldn't necessarily off the top of my head know how to go about doing that. But great question. I think 3 is like the sweet spot for like 3 different uses for cards. Really feels smooth for multi-use card games, in my opinion. Let's check it out. We're up to 32. Awesome. And yeah, we're up to 32. Have you guys watched the preview video yet? Any thoughts on that? I think David did a really good job with the animation and modeling of that, so I was very impressed there. 33. I gotta stop looking at it. What else? I don't know if I've shown off the pins too much. We have, for the pledge level, there are the 6 starting Foraglings that all have pins made for them. They are enamel pins with like a 3D, not like quite engraved, but like almost like a topographical map style texture that feels really cool. The pins are about, this is one of the larger ones. I want to say it's about 1.5 inches, but those came out really well. And then some of the preview copies did, but others didn't have the acrylic standees. I think this is probably my favorite part of the game components that I've seen so far. They came out really well, and TJ did an awesome job with illustrating where when you mirror them, they still look very in perspective. I don't know like the technical term for it, but some illustrations sometimes look wonky when they're mirrored, and I don't think any of the Foraglings do. So I'm super stoked with that. 3 million engagements. It's hard to watch this video. Yeah, I think from like the scripting that we worked together on, and then Ryan did an awesome job with the voice overview. I think the 90 seconds is that sweet spot where it communicates most of what you need to know to get an idea for the game, but it's not overstaying its welcome. I'm also one of the things that I got a ton during playtesting was there would be a lot of people that would come in and kind of you could see or hear if it was virtual playtesting the hesitation when I would explain the bidding elements to the game, and then I'd say like 1 in 3 people that had that initial reservation to bidding after during feedback would in some form of their own way of saying it, being like, I don't typically like bidding games, but I was really engaged and really liked this one. And so there's often a surprise element that I would agree with. I don't feel like Foraglings is a typical bidding game that I've traditionally played, which I just don't know the right way to market it with saying something like that. But let's check in. We are up to 38 backers. Almost across that 2,000 threshold, so it would be a sixth of the way there. What else we got? Activity, advanced. Let's check out the dashboard. I hope it's asking me to start a survey. Start that later. Direct traffic, automated launch, followers. It's showing where all of the backers came from. Oh, only 42% of the watch play of the overview video have been completed so far. And so far the deluxe seems to be where everyone is at right now in terms of backing. Interesting. That's cool. How do we go back to, there we go. What was your favorite part of the design process on Foraglings? So I guess 2 answers to that question. In general, one of my favorite parts of the design process is the iterations of playtesting and feedback, and so that would be across all projects that are my own designs or that I'm working with others on. When designs are in that play space of nothing's solidified and you can kind of figure out what's not working and hypothesize what might work, and then in the next playtest see if those hypotheses hold up, is the general like reason that I've gravitated towards game design. For Foraglings specifically, I think the pushing the asymmetrical elements of the Forageling characters was my favorite part of the game design process, where there's a few characters that play in like similar styles, where you'll have Zips and Walnut, who their overall goal is to collect tiles, and they're not as cell-focused as some of the other characters. But the idea of working towards caring about also building endgame scoring as opposed to just looking to get big tiles. Like each character has, in my opinion, a very like different archetype that they're trying to play as, and so that process of throwing all the ideas to see what sticks and then slowly filtering them through what ideas were actually fun for playtesters, seeing like one of the ways that I think I talked about with Hard to Master Jeremy, with the process of iterating them, the idea of tracking which ones play testers usually gravitated towards, like that data was a fun puzzle because the characters that, in my opinion, I thought would be fun. It was a fun, or it was an interesting puzzle to navigate, trying to see where the disconnect was and getting feedback of whether it just looked too complex or trying to uncover the hesitation towards certain characters was, for specifically Foraglings, my favorite part of the design process. Great question, Jack. All right, Joe, your turn. Who cares that you just woke up? All right, while we're pausing, we are now up to, with a quick refresh, we're up to 44. It's a good question for you guys. What backer number do you think we'll get to by the time I end the stream? Oh, we got a few more comments. Quickly answer the comment on Kickstarter while I wait for a few more questions to come in. Good one, Mick. Acrylic. Replace the player pause. Boop. Now it's launched. The next project. Other next projects. We have a couple designs in the pipeline, in terms of concepts that I'm interested in taking out of just like the initial play state. But the kind of big focus right now is to see how the Foraglings launch does before committing to knowing what's next. If you look on the campaign page, there's a tab that says international fans. So this Kickstarter is US Canada only, but both titles have been signed by Lucky Duck for localization. So both Everstone and Foraglings, the focus will still remain on making those two games the best they can be, are kind of the immediate focuses for McDavid Publishing. There are some cool opportunities for McDavid Publishing coming up that I'm not quite ready to share publicly yet. But I'd say if you're looking to make predictions, a heavily leveraging both titles that are announced right now will be kind of what my primary focus is, with the secondary focus is kind of behind the scenes in the background. I know that was super vague, Joe, but I appreciate your curiosity. All right, we're up to 48. gonna be crazy if Michaela gets her total number prediction correct. 123 would be awesome. I think 300 was. I guess that's a better question. Where do you think the campaign will end day one for Everstone? I'm pulling it up really quick. I think we had like 313 backers day one. Maybe that's too many. No, we had 299 backers day one. So if we could cross the 300 day one for Foraglings, I would consider it a huge success. Right now we're sitting at 49. So we're a little under 25% of the way. 500. Well, I did not leverage marketing or leverage myself in marketing to have that 500 threshold number pop up. So if 500 happens, I would be very curious to know where those backers came from. Is that Christian as Cam? Jeez, you guys are. It's not an auction. I think you guys are blowing smoke, but I appreciate the excitement for where the game might end up. So we got those. No new comments yet. No. Oh, well, my apologies, Cam. So fun fact about the background, minus Everstone, those are some of my favorite design inspiration games I got behind me. So what is everyone's current favorite game that they're playing? I don't know why OBS is flashing red. All right. The next thing I guess I'll show off is the printed insert. So right now it's just 3D printed, but this is going to give a general idea of what the final insert will look like. It has spots for all of the larger tiles that it will display to show how many of each tile are left and not collected by other players. And we got the spot for all the one piece tiles, and then it will have a vacuum formed clear cover that snaps over it. I don't have a vacuum form machine in my apartment, so right now we just have a 3D printed cover that rubber bands over it. Oh, we got a few Finspan and Pagan. I haven't played Pagan yet. That's the 2-player only one, correct? And then yeah, we got both Finspan and I think River Valley Glassworks is down here. So yeah, both great like filler plus style games. But yeah, you get Finspan today. Did you get it with the deluxe bits or just the game by itself? Oh, we broke the 50 mark. We are now at 50 backers. So that's pretty cool. We're averaging over 1 backer a minute, which is a fun pace. I'd love for that to keep up. But yep, so good. Awesome. I'd say my favorite new game. We just played Arctic Michaela and I the other day. It's still actually on the table. It is 2 to 4 players, but you're kind of managing your hand because each card, like you're trying to craft like a stack of cards that match the animal types, and you're trying to get like segments of them together. It was an interesting concept. I'd definitely play it again. Each animal has different player powers, and you gain access to that card's power if it's the last card you play on your own individual stack, and then has some like moving things. Looking behind me, Endeavor was really fun. That was one of the more exciting games that I played at the end of last year. I'm very excited to eventually try the solo mode of that. But yeah. Other Forageling things. Say my favorite final art of the characters will be Beaker. I don't know the easiest way to display his art. I kind of like how in the prototypes it feels like almost like Doodle Bob, where you've got these characters in a world that they shouldn't be. And so even though I think the final art is fantastic, there's something oddly like playful and enjoyable that having the prototype with just the concept art on is really good. Oh, thanks, Cam. The preview page looks great. What were the inspiration for the Forgeling characters? So some of that was like, I guess I would put all the credit to TJ, where so with Everstone, when we started working together on that, I didn't know at the time if I was going to get the opportunity to publish more than one game. And so I was kind of directing the art direction and inspiration for what went into it. I was very Easter egg focused for that. And so when it came to Foragelings, I really wanted to put the art direction more in TJ's camp and allow like his like aesthetic to drive where the final product went, which I think he did a phenomenal job. I had some kind of like insight and suggestions of kind of the overall setting and vibe, but from character personality and all the character sketches, that was he sent like maybe 24 different, concept characters, and then we worked through them and got some outside feedback on which ones people liked more than others and why, and slowly whittled those down to a point that I then went through and worked on creating a personality write-up, which on each of all of the character mats, there's a summary of kind of who they are and what they represent in the Forging community to match kind of the aesthetic that TJ drew. And then he would adapt the sketch to like fully personify and further like kind of characterize that personality. And I think they ended up really well. One of the cool spots that I can show right now is so Quippy and Zips are actually siblings, and we didn't want to have too many like human objects or man-made objects in the Forgelings world, but you can kind of see that Quippy is holding a bolt. Zips actually has the nut to that bolt tied around as like a little belt loop, and so I think that's a fun little hidden piece of the twins. But yeah, great question. Yeah, TJ does a phenomenal job. I actually met as if you look above me, I got quite a bit of Lego related product. TJ and I met when he still works there, but when I used to work for Lego almost a decade ago now. But yeah, I love those type of questions. Any other questions people have, feel free to rattle them off. Peruse the campaign page one more time. We got any new comments? So I'll mention this in the Kickstarter update later today, but there will be a live stream tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, where I'll be joining Bonzinator's live stream to do a 2-player playthrough. So there'll be details to that in the update when I get to write it this afternoon. So keep on the lookout for that. We got the new board art. Let's see. I don't know the easiest way to show that. But we cleaned up, TJ and I cleaned up some of the graphic layouts for the board art. So we cleaned up mostly this area here, and then where everything's pretty circular here, we made those kind of blend a little more while still being defined with the walkway. That came out well. What other changes have happened since the prototype? There's been, like, now that there's a much larger data set from playtesting, there's been slight tweaks from what was played in the prototype to what will be in the final version. Walnut, I believe, got a slight boost. Munch got a slight debuff. Twig got probably one of the bigger boosts, as well as their player complexity got upped from a 2 to 3. Squirt is about the same. There was, I guess, a slight positive buff. Beans remained the same. Fish definitely is the same. Beaker got a slight improvement to their endgame scoring. Linus has remained the same. Bigsby has remained the same. Miss T has remained the same. Zips and Quippy have both also remained the same. So Munch was the only one that kind of got debuffed. He ended up proving to be a little too strong, but it's generally in higher player count, or in the 2-player, that he's stronger, and solo, because those will use an automated character system, whereas at a 3 or 4-player game, you have more players actively trying to go in front of Munch to go into the market. So it wasn't a super extreme buff. It was more towards... it was originally kind of a scaling progression, where it was going up 4, then 5, then 6 points. It kind of tapers off towards the top and remains the same now, where it's not a scaling. None of that's extremely relevant or important right now, but just kind of me chatting to fill the time. Pop this out. Let's go back and check out the campaign page. We're up to 54. It's going to be crazy if Michaela's prediction's correct. I don't know what I'll do. Who came up with the names? So the names for the characters fell on to me. Some of them originally started as placeholder names, where it was just instead of Forgeling 1, Forgeling 2, I threw kind of top of mind ideas out there. And then one of my high school friends sent me a really cool video of the importance of world building and how to create successful words, and like half of the whole video is just talking about uh, what makes a good name. And so I went back through them and tried to clean them up a bit to make them, it's gonna sound weird, but better. I don't have a better word for that than better, but now I'm just gonna keep repeating better. But yeah, I'd say there is one of the potential stretch goals that is still unnamed. So there's a potential opportunity to help contribute to the naming world building of Foraglings. One of the non-important names in terms of gameplay, but is referenced a bunch in the theme of it, is the title, like the name of the forest area that they live in is Whitlock Grove, and that's pulling from, I'm from New Hampshire, and so we ended up pulling a bunch of different areas that are important to kind of New Hampshire landmarks in terms of like the environment, and that was sort of our building block to come up with Whitlock Grove. So I'll probably in one of the updates see if there are any correct guesses to be where the name actually came from, and maybe there'll be a prize. I don't know. We're up to 55. I might have to stay on till 70 just so it's one off. But I guess I can talk through some of the other changes that are still prototypey. These cards, the illustration here is actually just an old placeholder asset from Everstone that will change in the final of it. The board mats got cleaned up, so the ropes that got kind of cut through aren't going to be cut through. The board got a little wider to help with that. What else? The backsides of the cards did get cleaned up. It's not going to be hugely noticeable. The line work and the white icons of everything were, I guess, they're not as rigid and straight now, but those are going to be finalized. When we went to make the prototype, we only had, I think, 9 or 10 of the illustrations for that, so those will all get cleaned up before we hit production. The bag mats will have a slight more texture to them. They're close to being finalized, but they're right now they read flat, and so TJ and I have been playing around with getting them to kind of blend in with his awesome artwork while still not being too kind of distracting for gameplay purposes. The box front is going to remain the same. The side panels are a little darker than I had envisioned, and they're supposed to have slight texture coming through them, but couldn't quite get that right with the first run of that, so that'll be cleaned up with the production sample. We are working towards getting unique backs for the player screens to utilize and show off more of TJ's illustrations. One of the bigger ones is the coins that Joe used for his photography. The one coin will remain the same, but all of the higher denominations, the 5s, 10s, and 50s, will have so like this color around these coins uh, did came close to the yellow here. And so the higher denominations will have a band wrap of color of the other three colors for the resources. So they're easier to pull if you're playing where they aren't sorted and they're just in a pile. But I think those are the majority of the differences going on from what we had in the prototype. There's also like a very robust solo mode rulebook that further pushes the solo elements there. And we have, for the solo mats, if you're not using both of them at the same time, there's going to be a resource guide, because each color, I guess, family. So there's the 4 tiles in each color, and each of those 4 tiles have a different berry on them. And then each family of the same shape has the 4 different colors, and they still have the 4 different berries. Before we made the insert, we would play test and iterate with them being flat piles, so it was easy to see the dispersion. The insert definitely improves setup and teardown, and came out really well, but it does obscure knowing which berries attached to who. So we're including player aids to show the exact dispersion of berries for players to use. So those aren't currently in the prototype, but will be in the final product. Did you find any materials for making this game you liked more or wished you had used for Everstone? That's a great question. I love the acrylic standees. But I think that's because TJ did such a phenomenal job, like creating so much personality in the characters, that it gives more opportunities to display them, and having them in like the upright setting really like creates this world and personality in the game. I don't necessarily know that I may have like looked to use acrylic for Everstone, but I don't know if there's anything off the top of my head that materials wise that I would have changed. What else did we do different? Like, honestly, a lot of the materials that like are used for this were built off of Everstone because they worked so well on the production side of things. I guess maybe it would have been something that I would have done like community feedback and pulsing, to see if there was like a demand for it or a want for it. But I really love how the Forageling pins came out. And so with the illustrations that are in Everstone, potentially getting a pin set for that would have been something that would have been a cool opportunity, which could happen in the future. But all right, Joe, you have a good one. Good luck with work tonight. Let's see where we're at. Are we at that spot yet? Looks like we are at 56. It's going to be close whether we land on the money or not for final number of backers for the live stream. What else can I talk about? We got the rule book. I guess that's one thing that I learned from Everstone that I will be including right from the get-go for Foragelings, is I didn't include an appendix for the relics and explanation of them. It's now there digitally on Board Game Geek if you ever need that to know where. It's also on our website. The final version, I don't know. We have a working Google Doc that works as the appendix for that. For Foragelings, that's going to be included right from the jump, so that there's clarity in how every single endgame scoring works, as well as a quick example showing that that scoring in practice. But that's what I got for that question. What else do we have to show off? The I've been really enjoying playing with the unique Foragling mats. Uh, so much of the initial play testing with new players, we would use the standard um, collection mats, which are all different variations of the resources in the corners, which they still play well, and there's different synergies and comboing that you can do for that. But I've been really enjoying some of the now in-person advanced plays where we've been getting to play and utilize the unique backs for each of them, which has been quite enjoyable. Say my favorite character to play with that has been announced right now would be Walnut's fun because it then it changes your like it changes how you view tile size, where a lot of the other characters, like there's only two characters that really have you focusing on the size of tiles, which are Bigsby and Walnut. To do well in those, Walnut wants large 3-piece tiles because you're just trying to stack them up as high as it can go. And then Bigsby cares about the smaller tiles because his end game scoring is trying to have berries along the edge of his mat. Those have been fun to play, but I think it's kind of simple. But Miss T is like, her scoring is whatever resource color you have the least of, get 10 points per tile in that color, and you have, like, if you don't have any red, that's 0 points. She's been fun to play with, where I'll usually try to find one of the cards that cares about sets of a color type. So like this one cares about having sets of the L piece resource tiles, and then my goal for the game, if I can get that early enough, will be to try and remove all the income buttons from her mat and completely fill it with 3 sets of these. It's not like the guaranteed winning score or anything like that, because if you do, like, you'll get 48 from this and you can get 30 from that, so it's a decent chunk of your scoring, and you can try and filter in others. I just haven't been able to successfully do it yet, where I have made 3 sets of that, so that I guess that's one of my goals that I've been playing around trying to get right now. That's been fun. Let's check back in. We are officially over a quarter of the way funded. That's pretty cool. So if we keep at this rate, we could fund in 4 hours, maybe. My promise is I will stay live until our prediction of backers is correct. So if we can get 10 more backers, that will be what represents the end of the initial live stream. I appreciate anyone who's been watching. It's been helpful and enjoyable to have others to talk to, instead of just sitting here making up conversation. I appreciate everyone that's been asking questions. Awesome. Well, you have a good one, Cam. Thank you for stopping by for the portion of the stream that you did. But yeah. Oh, we are 9 backers away. Some of the other characters, it's fun to... The prototype's pretty cool, because I'll pull all... So there were 6 characters that got their full art before we had to make the prototype, and there were 6 that are still the concept art for it. Twig remains similar to the initial concept, but Bean is sort of different. I guess she's she's definitely different in terms of like overall character personality, but same structure if she's still riding the snail. Fish is close, but Walnut had an extreme makeover. So Walnut doesn't look like this at all for the final version. And then same with Bigsby. Bigsby didn't look like, you know, he's got a pot on his head now. And they both have very different characteristics to them. Where Fish and Beaker are similar, but not like extremely the same. And so it's fun to see how TJ's concept art has evolved from when we, you know, I think we had these produced 5-6 months ago, and now getting ready and having all the files formatted for the final printing, they do have very different personalities in terms of like character mannerisms. So that is a fun thing that you'll only get with the prototypes if you end up pledging at that level. How are we doing? Oh, we're up to 63. And we are almost officially 1 hour into launch. I'm going to start packing up the prototype in front of me, but if there are any last questions people have that are still watching the stream, feel free to throw them my way. And if no other questions come through, I'll probably wrap and call it, since we've been live for about an hour. I have to say, I do have an appreciation for streamers who are able to do this pretty consistently. This is not my bag. This is my bag. All right, we'll do one last look, and then I am going to sign off because I got some thank yous that I got to send out. And we are at... Let it finish load. Ooh, 64. So the final pledge count by the time I'm signing off is 64. Thank you everyone who watched this live and anyone that's watching the rebroadcast of it. I appreciate you stopping in and checking everything out. And